No makeup. It's cleaning day today, so that's why I look a mess. But I was just thinking of something I wanted to say out loud. Figured I would put it up here. So, my mom has this really my entire life, my mom has played the victim. That's like her go-to. That's her whole personality, right? Is playing the victim. That's always been a tactic of her witchcraft. Okay, she's a fucking witch. She's an absolute deplorable person. I'm not backing off of that. She's very good at playing the victim. She's very good at playing like she's innocent. She's very good at playing like she just doesn't fully understand things and she's incapable and she's a victim. She's a constant victim. There is no way I am who I am today if my mom wasn't an extremely intelligent, maniacal person. It's the whole reason I am who I am today. And I'm not going to back off of that. Okay? If you think that my mom is some sweet old lady that's just had all of these bad things happen to her in her life, it's because she's playing the victim and she's doing a damn good job of it. Okay? That's always been her go-to because that's how she's been able to harness the most energy most of her life is by playing the victim. She's an extremely manipulative person. She's a bitter person. She's an angry person. She's constantly fighting. She loves to fight. She gossips. She slanders people. She sets things up to fuck other people over and make herself look like the victim. This is what she's done my entire life, okay? I'm not saying my mom's the worst person in the world. She's hilarious. She's very funny. If you pay attention to her wit, you probably wouldn't notice if you were at church because she keeps herself extremely guarded around people that she knows would judge her otherwise. She's a witch, okay? But if you listen, if you were to like catch her when she's hanging out with her work friends and hear her actual wittiness, she's crude, she's despicable, and she's incredibly intelligent. She's very quick-witted. She's very smart. She's so smart that she's good at playing very dumb, right? And if you think that my mom isn't on top of things, if you think that she isn't already 2 steps ahead of you, you're probably ignorant to how smart she really is. That was number one in me being able to get on top of my own reality and being able to separate myself from the despicable stuff that my family was trying to do with me. She will lie about all of it. She will tell you that I'm lying. She will make you think that I'm out here on drugs, living on the street, being a prostitute, all because I just had to because I'm mentally unstable. That's what she says, okay? Have a single conversation with my mom about anything and try to know who's on top of their emotional state, who's actually thinking with logic. Everything she says is a lie. Everything she says is pre-planned in order to set up a very specific story that she has been telling, and it's breaking down. And if you get close enough to her, you will watch this breakdown happen. If you have any wisdom, give her your time that way. I would recommend not, but if that's what you want to do, give her your time that way, and you will find these things breaking down. They cannot hold up. She's the one that has not been stable my entire life. She is the one that's been off her fucking rocker because she's living 2 different lives because she's a fucking witch pretending to be a Christian in order to gain power. This is something that she learned very early on in my life, and she's been using it against me my entire life, as well as she's been using it against everybody she can because that's the only way she can maintain power. However, she's learning. She is learning. Pretty proud of that because she always told me that she wouldn't be able to. So I guess this situation I forced her into is forced her to fucking learn. Great. Awesome. Perfect. Great. Okay. So she's no longer, she's still playing the victim, but she's gotten smarter about it. What she's learned over Facebook, and I watched her do this years ago, when I first separated from the family, and this was when I was actively still communicating with them, trying to have a relationship with them, my mom was always the reason I couldn't have a relationship with the rest of my family. I was willing to work out the issues I had with my brothers, despite everything. I was willing to work out the issues I had with my stepfather, despite everything. But my mom wouldn't let that happen, because if she's not in control, everything is fucking terrible. And she will ensure that. If she's not in control, you're going to have to suffer. And she does that on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, on a mental level, and often now even on a physical level. Okay? This is her mode of operation. It's how she's always been. And I grew up hearing my stepdad say, just let your mom be. Quit trying to upset her. Don't push. You already know that your mom is like that. This is just how she is. This is how your mom is. This is how your mom is. This is how your mom is. Just let it be. While she's secretly gaining this dark spiritual power over people to be a manipulative cunt. I don't appreciate it, and I have zero respect for it, and I don't have a problem calling it out for what it is, okay? Unlike her, who won't actually tell you the truth about how she feels about me. She will tell me behind closed doors, but she wouldn't tell a person at church. No, to everybody outside, including her family, she loves me deeply. She's always loved me, and she just doesn't understand why I'm doing this to her. And she feels so bad because of how I must be out here just suffering mentally without her, and how, like, my whole world is all sorts of messed up, and, like, then I leave my dog at her house and my dog is sick. She killed my fucking dog. She killed both of my dogs. She was poisoning them. That isn't me making up some crazy shit. I have proven myself in every single job I've ever had to be somebody that is capable of logic, somebody that's capable of being highly responsible for multiple different things at the same time. Somebody that's hardworking, somebody that's taking care of themselves, and I've taken care of myself for years now, outside of when I've been closely related to my family, or when I was with my ex, who was also a manipulative, lying, deceitful, controlling person. Okay? There's a reason that I've been with people like that too, because of my mom and the relationship that I had with my mom growing up, and then carrying that into adulthood. That's why I stay alone. Until I've done my healing work, I'm not going to get into those types of relationships, because I've already seen what happens. I've already seen the type of people that I tend towards. They remind me of my mom. That I didn't have a dad, because my dad's been dead my entire life, right? Which is a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing, because I guarantee there were lies told to me about that too. I already know that these people are up to no good. But this is my mom's new thing. And this is the thing that I really wanted to talk about. Okay? I watched my mom do this when I was first separating from the family. And I wasn't trying to become estranged. I was actually trying not to. That was the direction that I felt like I needed to head, because it was the only thing that seemed healthy. But I was fighting that because I desperately wanted a relationship with my family at that time. I still wanted that relationship with my family. I wanted my mom to love me. I wanted to have a solid relationship with those people. So I was compromising myself in order to do so. Meanwhile, she was posting on Facebook, which she had just gotten accustomed to and gotten used to. She's a sociopath, so she loves the attention she can get socially. She loves the control she can feel socially. That's her whole reason that she has this personality that she has. She plays people. In every single group, she's a different person, and she will play those people to be the best. In a Christian church around a bunch of Christian women, she's a good Christian woman. She's kind, she's meek, she's quiet, she's a little inappropriate, but that's only to cover for how fucking actually crazily inappropriate she truly is. In case any of that happened to slip even just a little bit, you'd be like, yeah, well, she's just like one of those people, right? But like within a church, she is solid seeming. She really is. She knows these. She's been learning these things and how to communicate certain things. She knows what to say. She knows how to present herself. But the second you get her around a whole bunch of, people that are still in prison at her job, she's the most crude person there. She's the most inappropriate person. She's constantly making jokes of everything, including child abuse, including addictions, including all of these different types of lewd sexual acts. She loves it. She loves it, and you can watch her. You probably wouldn't be able to. If you're somebody listening to this that happens to know my mom, you probably will never see these things, because she already knows that you would judge these things. Whoever she is to you, she's to you because she knows that's what works. She's a sociopath. She literally does what is required in order to get what she needs out of different people. It's all a control tactic. She's not a genuine person by any stretch of the imagination. And the second that you get into those genuine aspects, she breaks down mentally and emotionally and turns into an actual crazy person. And this is something any of my family members know. They know this. They have watched it happen. They might not fully understand themselves because they're not properly educated into understanding what it is that's going on, but that's what's going on. Her capacity to be able to control everything is breaking down, and so she goes absolutely apeshit. She goes crazy and she manipulates things emotionally that way. So she gets on Facebook and she starts posting about how I am off mentally ill, on drugs, off in the streets, trying to separate myself from Jesus. I hate Jesus. I hate the family. This is all a me thing. This is the reason that I'm doing it and that I've separated. And she's the victim and she just doesn't know what to do. And she's just a loving mom who just wants to make sure that I'm okay. So she posts on Facebook pages, Christian Facebook pages, to get people to start praying for me, right? Praying on me. Because they're praying for a lie. They're believing lies. And now they're facilitating those lies. At first, when I saw that, what I thought that I was seeing was just her ego trying to get validation for the things that she believes. And as long as there's thousands of people, I saw one post where she had like 1,200 different people liking it, commenting on it. And she was commenting back to all these people too, like, oh, I'm so glad that you understand. They're like, yeah, my daughter's like this and this and this and this. And like, these people are absolutely fucking delusional. But most of the people in the comments are actually like, you know, they have a good heart about these things. They don't realize that this is just a manipulative lie that she's telling people in order to try to gain some sense of control over me and over her experience with me. She can't just let it go. No, she still has to get control. So this is how she does it. And people aren't privy to that because they're so trusting and they're in faith. If you think that she doesn't think that Christians are fucking stupid, you're proving her point. Because my entire life, we went to church on Sundays and then would joke about how stupid everybody at church was. That's like what they do. Now that smoking pot is out in the open, what they do is get a little bit high before church and then get high all together after church and gossip about everybody and talk about how stupid everybody is and how much smarter they are and logical they are and more theological they are about all of these different Christian concepts. Now, meanwhile, the reason that my brothers do it is because they're brainwashed and just they don't know how to look outside of themselves, and because they're trapped into the family dynamic. The reason their wives do it is because they have no personalities or souls outside of what gets them this certain type of affection or attention. My middle brother's wife needs affection. My oldest brother's wife needs attention. It's all a whole bunch of mental illness that's going on. Okay, and in the name of Jesus. And in, like, you know, they're just normal people. When they go to church, they're just normal people. But nobody else in the church is going and doing a bunch of coke or smoking a bunch of pot and then going to church and talking the entire time through church and then getting out of church and doing the same things while making fun of everybody at the church. I'm convinced that most of the people at the church are actually trying to follow those belief systems, not just making an absolute mockery of it. Okay? My family is a whole bunch of witches, people that are manipulative on purpose, people that take information and then use it against others on purpose. They're hate mongers, they're fear mongers, they're racists, they're sexist, they're drug addicts, they're sex addicts, and they're not nice people. They're people that are willing to rob others. They're people that are willing to set other people up. They're people that are willing to abuse others and assault others. That's what they do. That's my family. That is why I don't have a relationship with them. So when my mom now, I just happened to see that my mom now is, you know, it's the same concept, but like promoting like this idea of having a prodigal child. I'm the prodigal child. Tim was the prodigal child. My middle brother was the prodigal child back when he was trying to find himself. This is the workings of witchcraft. Okay, this is not true Christianity. This isn't these people working on faith. These people finding different theological excuses for how they can get away with their tactics of control. That's it. If you do not want your child finding themselves and aren't willing to support your child while they're finding themselves because you are convinced that there's some prodigal child out worshiping the devil while you are literally doing that behind closed doors, like, this shit is wild. This shit is really, really wild to me. I don't know what to do about it, but like, the concept that I'm the prodigal child. So she gets people to pray for me, right? And what I was thinking and why I wanted to talk about this is because I realized that wasn't just because it's validating to her that she's the victim. That's just a game she's been playing this whole time. It's a game many people will play that are psychopathic, sociopathic, trying to get in some realm of control and manipulation over people. This is why I try very hard to hold myself accountable to these things, to be as open and vulnerable about things as I can, to take on responsibility for who I've been, what I've done. And I put all that stuff out in the public because I do have a hard time with personal relationships because of everything I've been through, because the people closest to me have been these types of ways. It makes it hard for me to trust people. It makes it hard for me to connect with people. But I don't want to be like that. I don't want excuses to be like that. So I try very hard to be willing to be held accountable and to hold myself accountable in these types of ways so that I'm not playing the victim. And I will fight to not play the victim as much as possible. Not saying that I haven't been given to that in the past, or that I'm still not sometimes given to that. But that is the thing I'm constantly working out. And I do it for these reasons because I have watched how this modus operandum is how they get their power. It's how they get their power, by being this type of manipulative, by being this type of controlling. And like for my brother, it's all subconscious. It's psychological. He doesn't even fully realize it, or he can recognize it, but he doesn't know himself enough to know how to stop it. And they all make excuses. They all just make excuses for it. When I stopped making excuses, I started having to take responsibility. I'm not saying I wasn't fucked up just like they are. I had to get the fuck away from them and spend years in therapy and working on myself and working for myself and having no one else's support outside of these healthy when I know that it's not healthy, I can't keep going there and expecting that I'm going to get healed in those spaces, right? But I realized with this praying thing, getting hundreds, if not thousands of people to pray for your lives. And how it's because my mom thinks Christians are idiots. And she's just validating it. That's why she's used Christianity the way she has. She chose Christianity because she knew she could hide inside of it. And that people wouldn't know the wiser what kind of demon worshiper she is. Because these theologies are so close together. And people are so willing to be forgiving and understanding in the churches. We've also changed churches a lot. We've also changed schools, Christian schools, a lot. I've constantly been to all these different places when I was with them, until they can find spaces where they're able to be who they are, how they operate, while still receiving that benefit that they're just trying their best and they're just off a bit. And that's why they're, it appears my mom's going to a new church now. I don't really know. She's bragging about how she's been recognized as the #1 fan on a church page, a local church Facebook page. This is a great Christian woman that's been a Christian now for 35 years. Okay. That's something that somebody that's like just becoming a Christian might do. And even then, I think most people that are genuinely of actual faith in something better and greater than themselves, I think that they would have the wisdom to recognize how truly narcissistic that is. But I digress. I mean, even back when I went to the church that I don't know if they still go to now, I thought that they were still going to, but when I was going to that church, I started going before any of them were going. Then none of them were going to church at the time. I started going to the church. My stepdad had recommended it to me as a Bible study. I started going, and then I recommended it to them as a church. And so they started going. And then I left the family. And they continued to go to the church. But I remember hearing that pastor talk, once my family started going, I would actually go and my family would go to church on Sunday. They would show up late and then they would leave as soon as the church service was over so that they could go get high and talk about everybody, because that's what they do. I, at the time, was already affiliated with the church and was actively at the time trying to become a member. So I was going to all the extracurricular activities. I was going to the pastor's house with all the kids my age and hanging out. I was going to the Bible studies. I was doing these different types of things. And in those spaces, I would hear the communications. And then my pastor started at that time started talking from the pulpit about it, where he was like, the point of this isn't just to come and satisfy yourself for a Sunday for a couple hours while you hear a message. if you're just doing that so that you can hear yourself think about something, this isn't the right thing for you, or this isn't what you're not actually being a true Christian. But, if you actually cared about these things, you would be wanting to involve yourself. You'd be wanting to learn. You'd be wanting to be engaging. You wouldn't just be showing up late and leaving early. You'd actually be trying to build, relationships with these people. And he hammered down on that for a while. And I knew he was talking about my family. He was talking about other people too, but specifically my family, especially because my family would go in there and talk the entire service and laugh the entire service and make a whole bunch of fun the whole time and not take anything seriously. And then they would leave and they weren't getting to know anybody. So it took them a few years before they started to get very close, but they always kept themselves at arm's length from everybody. And by the time I was completely estranged from the family, they started becoming less active in the church or more active in different ways. But even things like they're just all liars and deceivers and manipulators and mentally ill. It's not like I didn't come from that place. Like I said, I had to take years away from them and their sick environment. I had to take years in therapy, which none of them have done. I'm a sober now, completely sober. I was only smoking pot, but I even quit that. They still do pot and they probably still do coke. Because I know for a fact my brothers were big on that and their wives were, my one brother's wife is an ex-heroin addict. I'm not judging her for that because she had quite a fucked up life. She's completely checked out. The fact that she came out of heroin and was able to get sober is incredible. I don't know how people do that. That's why I've never done heroin to begin with, to be honest, because all I've seen is it take people's lives, take people away from themselves and kill people. To be able to get sober of that is incredible. I am not trying to hold that judgment against her, but I do see that because of that, and just because of the person she's always been, and because of all of the abuse and all the fucked up shit she went through and the neglect and all of that shit, she's just kind of checked out. And I think that church is the right type of thing for somebody like that, right? I don't think my family is the right thing for her. I think my family is the closest thing she's ever had to people that actually love her. And so she stays with that. But I think it also is very conflicting for her soul. And I think that she's checked out enough that that conflict just doesn't bother her that much. And I think that she makes a lot of allowances for a lot of things she actually doesn't agree with, but that she just doesn't stand up for herself like she would have back when we were kids. She was my best friend when we were kids. Because she was such a strong personality, and she's just completely checked out now. Where my other brother's wife was our close friend's girlfriend, and then got with my brother the day that my brother got with his best friend's girlfriend the day that she broke up with him. And 2 weeks later, she found out that she was pregnant with the best friend's kid, and, they made a big thing about that. And my brother's known, my oldest brother always steals all of his best friend's girlfriends. This one he just happened to marry, and that was because he finally found a girl that was willing to just compromise herself completely for him. This girl didn't have an actual personality. I loved her when I first met her. We got along. I thought she was fucking hilarious. I didn't realize that she was just mirroring me. That wasn't really her. She just, again, like my own mom, knows how to play people, and her entire personality is dictated by whoever it is that she happens to be around. So I got along with her great because I didn't realize that. I just thought we had a lot in common. I thought we just happened to get along very well. But the second I did something she didn't like, suddenly she's shit talking me behind my back, making me out to be some terrible person, putting up all these walls to make it impossible to have an actual healthy relationship with her. The second she was with, when she was with my brother's best friend at the time, they're not best friends anymore. He's a close friend of mine, but I still that whole situation is entirely fucked because of my family too, and his relationship with my family. I really don't know how much I can trust that stuff, to be honest. I've tried to do my best, but this past time of being out in that position, I just realized that, I really can't trust these things. And I don't want anything to do with any of it, to be honest. I don't have to have anything to do with it. And it's too much. It's too much for me, all this bullshit. But When she was with him, she was an entirely different person. And then when she was with my brother, now that she's with my brother, she's an entirely different person. Her entire personality is based off of whoever she just happens to be around. That's not a real person to me. That's not a real person to me. Those are NPCs. They might be very funny NPCs. It's a well-written game. It's a well-crafted game. But they are not real people. And it's reflective in their kids for the fact that their kids aren't allowed to be real people either. My brother dictates what it is that the kids can think and feel, and his wife makes jokes about how she hates all of them and just has a whole bunch of them so that at least one of them can take care of her. The more she has, the more likely at least one of them's going to end up taking care of her. So my brothers have like 7 and 8 kids. 2 of the kids amongst them are my cousin's kids that they adopted because she lost them. Okay, and in the midst of all of this Jerry Springer shit, because there's like 5 different parents, 5, 6 different parents for all the different children. There's just a lot going on there. They have the audacity to act like they are the most upright people, even at the church. All they do is just judge people at the church. The last time I saw my family, that's what they did. They came home from church. I didn't go to church. They came home from church. They came over to the house that my parents are staying in, which had my name on it, but my parents, it's not their fucking house. It's not their fucking house. But everybody came over there while I was there, and, everybody's smoking, and at the time I was smoking too. I didn't have a problem, but at the same time it, felt really weird, and I really wasn't smoking as much as them, and I kind of kept distant because I really wasn't trying to bond with them that way. I was being extremely observant, more than I've ever been in my life, of these people. And they sensed that. They got weird vibes from that, and they're all just trying to make it lighthearted, make it fun and stuff. My oldest brother tried arguing with me 2 seconds into talking to me for the first time in 6 years, and I cut him off, essentially. He left mad, came back, apologized for how I felt. I told him that wasn't a real apology, so then he left again. So the tensions were high, and so they're all just, trying to keep it easy. Nobody wants to actually talk about anything real or anything like that. And they're all extremely, timid with me. One, because they don't know what I know. They don't know how much I know that they've tried to fuck me over for the last years. They don't know how much I know about any of that stuff, so they're not trying to give into any of that. Right? They're trying to act like everything's just cool and kosher, and we're all just, they've just been waiting for me to come back around. But they're also very intimidated because they have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth at any given time. And I'm not trying to start any shit, so I'm being very careful as to what it is that I say and talk about and give any energy to. But I remember sitting in the dining room as, and I don't think my middle brother's wife really smokes too much. Because she had been on the heavier drugs and stuff like that, and she kind of just keeps away from it, but she doesn't have a problem being around it. But I don't think she really smokes too much. But when I was around them all the time, I was smoking nonstop, every minute of the day, up until the second I was actually actively asleep. I was smoking pot. From the moment I woke up, that was the first thing I would do was grab my bowl and hit it, and I would stay high all day, every day. That's what my sister-in-law, my oldest brother's wife, does. And at this point, that's also kind of how my mom tends to be, and how my stepdad tends to be, and my brothers. They'll just smoke pot nonstop all day, every day. Aside from when they're at places where they can't be smoking pot. If they're at work, they can probably be smoking pot because they can get their vapes or they can go in the bathroom and stuff like that. So generally, they're high during work and stuff like that too. Church is normally only a couple hours. So they'll smoke beforehand and then they'll smoke immediately afterwards. But they generally don't do anything socially unless it's just a couple hours or unless they can take a break to go smoke. That was something I learned from them. We just stay high all the time. From the time I was 19, that's the way that it was. When I was 19, I found out that my parents smoked. And then from that point forward, it was just us smoking all the time, nonstop. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking man, look at these good Christian women. And like, because I think my sister-in-law had even mentioned something about it as we were passing the bowl around, where she was like, this is how we commune with each other. And I was just thinking like, but you wouldn't say that to the pastor. You wouldn't even try to make that an argument to the pastor's wife. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it'd probably be nice if you could find a church where the people smoked pot the same way that you did. And then you could actually be in a place where it'd be like, okay, now we're cool. Because my brother does that. My oldest brother has a Bible study with these young dudes that, you know, they smoke and they do coke and then they read the Bible and they have Bible studies. Fucked up. While they're drinking and smoking and getting high on coke. Bible studies. But what I do is witchcraft. And this was prior to me doing tarot readings. They assumed that I was doing witchcraft by like drawing eyes on things. Yeah, it's a protection method because I know what the fuck y'all are doing. I didn't know that that's what I was doing when I was doing it, but I knew every time I drew an eye on something, every time I could see an eye that I had drawn on something that I had made, and I would put these eyes on different things. And every time I could see it, I felt protected. I felt like I was being watched by my protector. Like, it's always been since 7th grade. It was something I started doing in 7th grade, and it's something that I've always done. I didn't realize until I was in my late 20s that it was even a thing. And then once I learned that it was a thing, like in the occult, I continued to practice it because I just understood it now. I understood why it was that I subconsciously was doing those things. Most of everything I've done has been led to me subconsciously. And these strong, devout Christians would tell you that that's the devil. That's the devil. But they don't deal with the devil. They're not demonic at all. They're actually the most upright people, which is why they can smoke pot and do coke and drink while doing their Bible studies. And these girls are sitting here, you know, and my mom and my sister and I are smoking. And I'm not really adding to the conversation because they're talking shit about the people at church. That's all they're doing. That's for an hour and a half. And it got to the point where like I was sitting there listening. And after an hour and a half or so, close to 2 hours, I was like, I told them, I called them out on it. And they didn't like it. I was like, I just don't, like, all you've been doing this whole time is just gossiping about people at church. And like, I don't really see how this is like good Christian behavior. There has to be a better way for us to commune and to like get close to each other without talking shit about other people. And my sister's face and my mom's face were both the fucking same. They're just filled with so much hatred. My sister literally was making jokes about how much she hates her kids. She thinks it's funny, but we all know she hates her kids. I'm sure the women at church don't. I'm sure the women at church think she's a loving, good mother, just like my mom. They love their kids so much. So much. They're just being victimized by their kids constantly. It's sick. It's fucked up. And this getting other people to pray, like this, like what they do is they prey on Christians because they know that Christians do things in faith and that they're not going to ask those questions and that they make assumptions that, well, you know, that's between them and God and everybody's just trying their best. And I've also been in bad places myself. And as long as they're doing A, B, and C, they must be on some sort of right path and it's not for me to judge, right? So they just manipulate the fuck out of these people. They go to these churches, they go into these spaces, they get around these people, and then they take it back and they practice witchcraft so that they can continue manipulating these people. Getting all of these people to pray for something these people are unaware of, so they have to trust whatever's being told to them. And what's being told to them is a lie. What that is a form of witchcraft. It is literally getting a whole energy transference into one specific vein on one specific path in order to enact very specific energetic transference. If you have told people about a lie and are getting them to pray for it, you're trying to validate that lie. And if you're getting people to pray for me, which I'm not asking people to pray for me, and I don't want these fucking people praying for me. I don't put my personal information out there like that for these other people. Right? Like that. I'm not in a victim mentality. I'm not asking other people, you know, to help make sure that these things are okay. If I talk about something, it's because I've learned from it and because I'm trying to help other people to not have to go through the same bullshit. I'm not asking other people to validate me. I'm not asking other people to support me. I'm not asking people to help me about this stuff. And I never have. It's hard. I would love to be able to be in a place where I could ask for support, but I just don't feel right knowing that these are the ways that things are being done. Especially when I've proven that I can do things by myself. I can work through these things. If it's being given to me, it's because I have the power to overcome it. And I trust that. So like, I'm not out here, I'm not trying to have a relationship with my family. I don't want people praying for me to come back to have a relationship with my family in the name of Jesus. You know how fucked up that is? Be very careful about what you pray about other people if you're somebody that's given to prayer, especially if you're hearing other people's prayer requests and you're praying on their behalf. Be extremely cautious as to what you're doing because you may not know exactly what it is that you're doing or asking for. Thankfully, I'm protected, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to fall into the brainwashing where suddenly I want this relationship with my family and I'm willing to deal with all of the absolute bullshit and take it on all myself while they're still the same people they've always been and are just doing it to keep control over me. The reason they don't want me out here on my own is because I can communicate my experiences differently. As soon as I'm around them, I struggle with that. It is hard to be honest around people that are constantly lying. It is hard to be genuine around people that are only wearing masks. It is hard to be true to yourself when the entire environment does everything it can to break you down to not even knowing yourself, let alone being able to express yourself, because anything that you could do that's you is evil. Yeah, it's very hard. So I keep myself away from those things for a reason, for my own benefit and health and security. That's why I have lived the life that I've lived. Is it fun being a single woman without a family? It ain't the greatest. I'm thankful that I've been able to make of my life what I've made of my life. But like 99% of the people I know have families that they can go see and spend time with. And they might not always get along and they might not always like those people, but those people aren't actively preying on them. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, sexually, financially. My family does. That's why I don't have a relationship with them. It would be extremely unhealthy for me too. Every time I have tried to, it took me 8 years to even become estranged from them. And now I've been estranged from them for almost 8 years. It took that much time because of how hard it was for me to just let that go. Because I didn't want to. I wanted my family. I loved my family. I still do. That doesn't mean I need a relationship with them. I love my mom. I just know for a fact that she's a witch, that she intends very bad things for people, that she is manipulative, that she's conniving, that she's controlling, and that she's mentally unstable. That doesn't mean I don't love her, but it does mean that I'm not going to have an active relationship with her. And for a long time I tried, even despite knowing those things, I kept trying because I thought maybe if I just went about it a certain way and did things a certain way, but there was no way that that was ever going to happen without me having to compromise the genuineness of my true self. And I'm not going to do that anymore for anyone, especially not for people that aren't willing to do it for me, especially not for people that are actively doing things I don't agree with, like lying and cheating and stealing and trying to commit murder and being drug addicts and being totally okay with all of those things while they lie about it. If you were totally okay at I don't have a problem with people being drug addicts. I don't have a problem with people being whatever the fuck they are. I really don't. I've known a lot of people. I've known a lot of people that have been in a lot of places that do a lot of things. If those people can be honest to me, when I'm hanging out with an entire family that's on meth, and then the kid is doing PCP and tripping the fuck out, and it's all extremely complicated, and these people are openly Nazis, and I don't agree with any of it. I don't support any of it. But I still have some level of respect for those people for the fact that they didn't hide those things from me. There was a lot they were hiding from me that I lost respect for them for. But the things that they were honest about, I had respect for, because you're being honest about it. If you can accept that that's who you are and embrace that as who you are, so can I. But the second you put on those masks and try to pretend to be somebody else and try to convey yourself as being somebody else, how can I trust that? Okay, I am well aware, and I've been talking about it in my last videos, I am well aware that there is a capacity every human has to want to be decent, to want to relate to others, to want to be received well, to want to like be a balanced member of society in certain ways, to the point where like, even while we're trying to be as genuine as possible and as honest as possible, we're still given to masking. We're still given to, you know, not manipulation, but to lying to ourselves about certain things, and thus like conveying things that aren't necessarily true about ourselves. There is a difference between that and lying to yourself so that you can lie to others, or just straight up lying to others too. But ultimately, I don't expect perfection out of anyone. And I certainly know for myself that I can't for myself, but I do have my highest standards set for myself, not for others. And I do try to adhere to my highest standards as much as possible. I slip all the time. All the time. This whole past like week and a half, I've been like weirdly, so weirdly horny that like I've been given to my porn addiction in a way that I haven't been for a very long time. But every year it seems to be this way too, where there's a period of time every year for the past like 3 years where for the most of the year, I don't even look at porn. I don't even engage in porn unless I'm using it for artwork, but anything pornographic. But then like for a couple months, I'll just like have this really hard time resisting it. And I'll just be like extremely high in my sexual energy, and like, you know, I'll control it where I'm not just like, I mean, I haven't been given to just sleeping with anybody at any given time since I was 19, since I went to the 12-step program when I was 20. But when I first got into Austin 3 years ago, and was first affiliated with the comedy scene, like I was open for a couple months to being with different people. I slept with like 2 people. It was casual. It wasn't like I built some sort of intimate relationship with them prior to sleeping with them. I sucked a couple extra dicks on top of that, I did. But like, I still have maintained this standard of control even through those things, and it continues to get better the older that I get. But I'm not perfect. It's not like I'm not still given to those things. I'm still constantly having to work out those things. And again, this is why I try to be honest about these things. That's the best I have to offer. So at least I'm not convincing people that like my capacity to not have sex for the last 6 months has been something super easy. Like, oh man, you've been an addict before, and then look how far you can come, when like, it's not like it's been easy. It's not like I haven't been given to different types of vices in exchange. You know, it's all part of a process. I do these things to work myself out, to build myself to a point of a more integral strength, right? And to be more genuine. That's the best that I have. My issue, particularly with my family, but when it comes to people in general, is that if you are actively trying to pretend to be something that you're not, because you know it will gain you some sense of control and power in whatever realm, and then behind the scenes, you're mocking those things, making a mockery of those things just by behaving the ways that you do and being engaged with the things that you do, not taking any of that seriously, why would I take you seriously? How can I respect you if you don't actually respect yourself? Because if you actually respected yourself, you would be one of those people saying, yeah, I'm doing meth. I'm gonna smoke it right in front of you because I don't give a fuck. I have more respect for that than I do for smoking pot behind the scenes after going to church just so that you can gossip about everybody. I really do. I really do. I have more respect for people that are actively involved in the cartels or in human trafficking than I do for people that are lying about those things. You're lying to the cops about it, that's between you and the cops. But if you don't lie to me, I can respect that. You know what I mean? That's why I can't expect perfection of people, and I'm not trying to do that. But this whole thing was to talk about the fact that thinking about my mom getting so many people to pray for me, having this concept of the prodigal child and using that to gain control over others' perception of me so that she can play the victim while getting other people to prey on me is witchcraft. Bad witchcraft. It isn't lighting a candle and feeling some nice way. It isn't lighting sage and trying to cleanse yourself and get into alignment with your highest power. Those things aren't witchcraft. Okay? The only reason that those things came to a concept of witchcraft is because generally European settlers went into spaces where pagans were already practicing their religions and said that those things were savage and that those things were witchcraft and that those things were of the devil and those people were worshiping devils because they weren't worshiping a monotheistic God. Okay, that's where that comes from. But me praying to my ancestors isn't witchcraft if you're going to call that witchcraft, then at least understand that getting thousands of other people to pray to their God about your lies so that you can maintain a sense of control over your own victimhood is also witchcraft. Okay, at the very best, it's also witchcraft. Even still, I don't practice witchcraft. I think the people that consider themselves to be witches and warlocks tend to be narcissistic and ignorant. I think that if you think that you're the one with all that power, you're fooling yourself. And I think that if you think that, killing a fox and shaking its blood all over you is going to give you power over me, you're an idiot. That's not, if that's worked for other people, if that energy, I believe in energy. I believe that the things that we put out into the world and try to manifest into the world do become things. But it's very important to know what you're doing. I just saw this, the Far Side style meme. The Far Side was a comic back in the 90s, and it was that kind of styled comic strip, but it was a meme, and it was a man went to a psychic and said, I want the winning lottery numbers. So the psychic gave him these numbers, right? Because looking in the crystal ball, these are the numbers that came through. So she gives him these numbers. He goes to put them in for the lottery and doesn't get the winning ticket. And he's so mad that he doesn't get the winning ticket. When he paid for her to give him the numbers, she gave him the numbers and she must have lied. So he goes back and he assaults her over it and then ends up in prison. And his prison number, the number on his chest when he's in prison, is the number that she gave him. And that to me is so funny and so true. Because one, if you go to somebody else for spiritual enlightenment, instead of just you going directly to God, you're already going to be off track. Okay, so if you go to somebody else and say, give me the secret numbers, give me the secret formula, you can pretty much anticipate that that's not going to end up looking exactly like you expected it to look. Because unless you included that psychic as part of your vision of you winning the lottery, then how are you going to involve her in getting the numbers, but not involve her in the actual success or completion of the work that she just did? Okay, you're already off. Secondly, the way that it works is that a psychic can even, a spiritualist, a pastor, a priest, these people when people are tapped into other dimensions that way, they do have the capacity to be able to see certain things. A pastor can tell you, hey, if you do that thing, it's going to lead you astray. You're going to end up down this path. A lot of that just comes from experience. The same thing with a psychic. That's where it's all coming from, truly. It's just education and experience, right? But if they give you a certain thing, that can be valid. But because you're not the one receiving it for yourself and engaging with it yourself, because you're still going through somebody else, because there's an intercessor on your behalf, you're not going to know where to place that in your actual reality. And they're not you, so how can you expect them to? You know what I mean? Even somebody who knows you better than you think you even know yourself can't do that for you. Only you can truly know yourself. And so at the end of the day too, then you see the accumulation where it's damn, so it was this, but I didn't think it was going to be that. That's why I don't listen to tarot readers. I only do oracles, because somebody that has a definitive, this is who you are, this is who you're going to be, this is what's going to happen for you, this is who's going to be involved. You don't know me. You don't know me, and I'm aware of the workings of the sacred geometry of life in a way where I could end up in a different place than you foresaw, with the same things technically being true, but not the way that you saw them exactly, or the way that you saw them, but not the way that you spoke them. Like, there's all these different aspects that go into when you use an intercessor. That's why that intercessor was only purposeful for a time. It was a crutch. We don't need to keep relying on Jesus as a crutch when we have the capacity ourselves to speak directly to God and get to God ourselves. The reason there was a time and place for different prophets, for different religions, for different types of intercessors in this type of way, spiritualists and all this thing, was because people did not know how to walk on their own. So they needed a crutch. As soon as you don't need a crutch, using one is only going to limit your capacity to walk. Or you're going to start using it in ways that aren't healthy or helpful. I'd recommend not doing that to yourself, And so all of that comes down to just the state of what these things are like. If you don't truly know yourself enough to understand why, as my mother, I don't have a good relationship with you, and you want to keep blaming me about it, and now you have spiritual terms to throw at me about it, like, my mom swore that she had no way of contacting me in order to let me know that my grandma had died and that I was in the inheritance. And because of that is why my mom was able to receive all of the inheritance, even though I found out through the lawyer that she became the beneficiary the year that she moved in. And I'm pretty sure that was behind my grandma's back. I don't think my grandma even knew that. And I think when my grandma passed, she wasn't anticipating to be in the physical state that she was in, and I don't think that it was a natural state. I just think that she had been drugged into being in the position that she was in, and then drugged to death. And when my mom told the story, even when my mom told me the story and started crying about it, and I thanked her for caring for my grandma, and she was crying about it, but even when she told me the story, she basically admitted that my grandma's, the medication that she was on had her falling, and that, so then she just had to be bedridden. And, she was like real confused and stuff. That's because she's not being given the proper medication the right way. My mom's not a caregiver. My mom's never taken classes to be a caregiver. My mom doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. I watched my mom steal morphine from her dying mother. Okay, my mom isn't somebody to be trusted around drugs. But here she is taking care of my grandma, not her mother-in-law. That was my dead dad's mom. My mom had no affiliation with her outside of the fact that her children were this woman's grandchildren. Yet this woman let my parents move into her house because my parents can't fucking keep a house for themselves. Don't know how to maintain money. This is why they have to rob people. This is why they have to steal from people, because they have no idea how to use their money properly. They just spend it constantly, wishy-washy, buying all these different things, spending all these different ways, have no idea how to invest. Couldn't teach us those things. Meanwhile, they were robbing me my entire life. And then when it made me start working at 14 so they could start robbing me even harder, and then took multiple inheritances from me. And this is how they've survived not well either. The only reason they seem to be doing well right now is because they stole this house that they're living in. So now they're not having to pay rent about it. That's the only reason they seem to be doing well. And they are still having problems. Because they're not stable people. They're in their 60s. And they're 30 years older than I am. And they're not even half as far as I am in my life. And I ain't somewhere great. I'll give it that. But I have learned how to be able to care for myself and how to get on top of things and how to make sure things are paid on certain times. And I don't have a whole bunch of crippling debt weighing me down or anything like that. You know, I've been blessed. I've been protected that way because they have tried to put me in financial stints myself just so that I would be stuck with them. They've tried. They've tried to sabotage me at every turn just to make themselves appear some type of way. It isn't working anymore. And all of these things are going to crumble. And the more that people get to know you guys, the more that this is not going to stay up like this. Like these things can't continue. All these lies and stuff are all going to break down. None of this is going to continue to add up for y'all to keep benefiting off of other people. It's for y'all to keep abusing people's actual faith just to get them to prey on your own daughter. That's crazy. That's crazy. Every single thing that my mom has done that I can think of is literally lunacy. Absolutely crazy. And my stepdad just makes excuses for it. He laughs about it. He knows. He's involved in it. My brothers don't even know what to do. They have no identities and of themselves. My stepdad preyed on my oldest brother. My mom preyed on my middle brother. They thought I was an idiot. They thought I was self-deprecating enough. I was supposed to kill myself. The first time I tried to kill myself, I was 8 years old. That isn't a normal thing. That isn't a normal thing. And at the school that I was at, you know, they prior to that, at the public schools, people knew that I was having issues. At the public schools. So my parents moved me into Christian schools where no longer did they have to hear about the problems that I was having. Nobody cared after that. So that's when I actively started killing myself. I had been depressed long before that. I had had identity issues long before that. It was fucked up when I was a kid. I was fucked up when I was a teenager. I was fucked up when I was a young adult. But after even just a year of getting away from my family, I started to make healthier choices. I started to get into healthier relationships. I fell into that relationship with my ex, and that was hard for me. I stayed with him for 6 years, and there was so much about him that was so similar to my mom, and that's what kept me there too, was because it felt comforting. At the same time, he also provided for me more than I'd ever been provided for. It was just when I realized that was all just a control tactic, I was like, no, I can do this on my own. I'm going to show you that I can provide for myself. I've only been willing to settle because I love you and because I wanted to be with you. And once I left and was able to care for myself, he was shocked and eventually had to back off because I didn't come crawling back like he thought that I would, you know? And my mom, the same thing. They would convince people that that's the type of person I am, that I'd have to keep crawling back. That's what she had people convinced of when I got divorced. Meanwhile, they were telling me that I was damned to hell for getting divorced. I got divorced because my husband was in love with somebody else. I wasn't going to make him stay miserable with me when he wanted to be with somebody else and could actually be happy. And guess what? After we split up, he got with that woman and now he's happy. I don't feel bad about that. I'm not the bad guy for that situation. But my family wanted to make it seem like, look, she can't even take care of herself. She leaves her marriage and now she has to be back with her family. All right, so then I left again. And I underwent a whole bunch of shit because I wasn't prepared for it. Because I hadn't been taught how to properly care for myself. I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned. I was willing to learn. I wasn't going to keep playing the victim. I'm very blessed to have been through the things I've been through in my life that have allowed me to separate myself from my family. But I just wanted to take this time to talk about these things because, I'm so over it. I'm so over it. And if you, of course I can feel the energy of a whole bunch of people that don't even know shit putting energy that just doesn't match in my general direction. I can feel that. I'm not here for it. I'm not affected by it the ways that you would hope that I was. But I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's just been a lot. It's just been a lot. And I'm going to just keep pushing forward. And I know that my success and abundance is on its way because I've continued to do the work that I'm supposed to do. And I've continued to listen to my highest calling and to keep myself away from those that mean me harm. And I'm just going to keep doing that as best as I can. And living off of faith. Because that's the best I got. I don't know. Just be careful if you're a Christian or somebody that prays, be careful taking other people's requests because witches are out here using that to their benefit. They think Christians are stupid. They think people of faith are stupid. They don't have it themselves. And so they're just using other people to do it. And if some old ass fucking crazy ass fucking woman can get on Facebook and get a couple thousand people to pray on her daughter for her lies, what are y'all doing? Be very careful, please. Again, I'm protected. I'm not worried about it, but don't give into this stuff. So many of the things that Christians tend to be given into is truly witchcraft, and they don't even realize it because they're just living on faith. Be wise. Be wise. You're supposed to be as wise as serpents and as peaceful as doves. You learn the occult. You learn those things. You have the capacity to, because by faith, you don't have to fear any of it. It's the faith that allows you to go through and educate yourself about those things. Not to become a fear monger or a hate monger about it. That's not love. That's not grace. That's not peace. That's not joy. That's not any of the things that an actual Christian would adhere to. Giving into these conspiracies. It's all witchcraft. It's witchcraft. My parents are witches, practicing witches, dark witches that like will kill people for their own benefit. Just be careful who it is that you're trusting, what it is that you're believing in, because not everybody out here act in some way is really some way. Okay? And there's a lot of people out here doing some fucked up shit that you wouldn't even believe because they just look like normal people. Know yourself. Know yourself so that you can keep yourself on your path and just free of distraction and protected from all of the bullshit. Because people are wilding out here. Okay.